succeeding announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 252, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic. We're going to talk two free plays that we have on this card. If you're interested in my client plays, check out WagerTalk. I got 4 plays up, $19. We're coming off a 4-0 night last Saturday for clients. Definitely a big 4% play on there as well. Have another 4% play in this package. Definitely take a look at it. Right now for my clients, we are 45.33% return on investment, and I'm a hair under 70% winner this year on my client plays. So definitely check that out if you're interested. If you are not interested, we're going to talk 2 free plays here. We're going to talk about the main event as well. Going to dive into that one. I really dove into this one quite some time ago, and really excited to talk about it, talk about the breakdown, talk about if there is a spot here that we feel we can definitely see one fighter exposing the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to bet. And in this spot, I do believe it's a spot for us to place our money. So we are going to talk. The first thing is the main event of the evening between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. Now, as I was saying, they've fought before. This is the third time that they fought. First one ended in dramatic fashion. Also, the second one ended in pretty dramatic fashion as well. So each of these guys had one other fight prior to, in the last 3 fights, fought somebody else. So I'm going to quickly go over that before I dive into the last 2 fights for these gentlemen when they fought each other. So right now you got the current line. You've got Daniel Cormier, pretty much a pick 'em at this point. You've got Daniel Cormier, he's a -116. You've got Stipe is around a -105, somewhere in that range, you know, depending what book you're looking at. So pretty much it's a pick 'em fight here, and we're going to dive into it. So first we're talking about Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier, I believe about 2 fights ago now, he fought Derek Lewis. Now this was a fight here. It was actually a fight I attended. It was in Madison Square Garden. A fight where you weren't really sure who Daniel was going to fight. You know, DC was kind of going back and forth, and this was actually after he had just beat Stipe for the title, and was he going to defend it? Was he not going to defend it? They were talking Brock Lesnar, and they were talking all these crazy things. So it ended up being Derek Lewis in this fight, and this was a fight here where you kind of knew what was going to happen. I mean, Derek, I definitely think, has elevated over the last few fights, and even since this, he looks better shape. He's definitely not as even light-footed on his feet. I mean, just the way that he overall is, his skill set, his cardio, everything has really improved. So this was definitely a lower-grade Derek Lewis. But overall, I mean, in this fight, it was all DC. You know, DC went in there in that first round, you know, looked for the takedowns, you know, ground and pound, worked him up against the fence. And going into that second round, it was pretty easy for him. He took him down again. It was almost a matter of time, worked to his back, got the rear naked choke, ended up finishing him in that second round. Not too much to break down there because I don't really see much difference, or I see a lot of difference going into this fight against Stipe. It's a lot different. So in that fight there, pretty much it was a DC win pretty easily. On the other side, you had 3 fights ago, Stipe fought Francis Ngannou. And this was a fight here where Ngannou looked like the world beater. You know, going into this fight, this was a fight where, you know, they're talking about the strength, and it's, you know, Francis has the, you know, hardest punch ever recorded and all these things, and the hype train was there. He was, you know, decimating, you know, opponents, had obliterated all, you know, Overeem and all these fighters. He just looked on the path to a victory. At least a lot of people said on a chance to fight for the title, goes in against Stipe, and Stipe couldn't have fought any smarter. I mean, this was something where you didn't really see Stipe use his ground game prior to this. Very much a boxing style, very much kind of a rangy guy, you know, has power, and you've seen him knock out multiple guys, top level guys, legends. And in this fight here, he just went and said, you know, they did stand and trade for a little bit, and once he got clipped with a couple big shots, Stipe said, forget this, went to the ground game, pulled Francis down, ended up basically keeping him there for 5 rounds. And you can't blame him. It was a great strategy. It worked in this scenario, really exposed what Francis needed to work on, and I think that you can see his takedown defense has gotten better since then. But in this fight, it was just an easy victory for Stipe. He did, well, maybe not easy. It's easy for me sitting here, but looked like an easy victory. Just be able to get him down, get him to the ground, work control, top control, chip away in the scorecards, got the victory. So Stipe gets that victory there by decision. So now we're going to, now that we got through that, we're going to talk about the last 2 fights for these guys. And the first fight here, you had it where you had champion versus champion, big fight, light heavyweight versus heavyweight. First time that 2 title holders of these divisions went and fought each other, and for him to go up in weight. And this was a fight where you really take a look at, everyone's talking about the style of this, and is, obviously Cormier has fought in heavyweight division in other organizations. But in this fight here, you go in that first round, and I think the thing that Stipe pretty much thought he would be able to do, and I think the strategy kind of going into it, was basically, I'm going to muscle him. I'm going to be the bigger guy. I'm going to be able to muscle him a little bit. And right in that first round, you saw Stipe really cut the distance. He cut the distance, came in close, kind of walked DC down. There wasn't much time really for, feeling out process or anything like that. He kind of walked him down and then even took him up against the cage. Stipe had him against the cage and kind of dragged him to the ground a little bit, but DC bounced back up and pressured him, throwing some good combinations together on DC. And that, I think, really early on kind of gave a feel that Stipe felt he's not going to have the power. He's not going to have the reach. He's not going to have the power, and I'm going to be able to muscle him a little bit, maybe tire him down or whatever it may be, but I'm going to be able to bully him a little bit. And it really took, maybe into the middle of that round where DC finally kind of caught a couple nice shots, threw a couple nice combinations, and you saw that right away that Stipe, his eye, he got busted up pretty quickly, and that's when I think Stipe kind of pulled it back a little bit and tried to, get more comfortable in the pocket with the way that DC fights. Because DC has very quick hands, I think underestimated, his boxing is very underestimated, and kind of the way that he fights. And in this situation where they ended up kind of, he landed a couple nice shots, and the bad part was the eye poke. Now, I do want to talk about the eye poke for a minute here, because this is a big conversation piece when you go into both of these fights. People kind of talk about it, and I'm not going to dive into it too much in the second fight. But this fight here was, he did eye poke him, and was there a second one, and people all kind of getting into that, but it didn't look good. I mean, the way that DC kind of has his defense is he has his hands out, and he kind of utilizes them as a blocking mechanism to kind of keep his hands out in front instead of kind of in tight, looking to block. Maybe he's going to roll a punch, or maybe he's going to move out of the way, or slip the punch, slip a hook. He kind of looks to go like this and utilizes that kind of ranginess throwing a punch. And in that position, I don't believe they did it on purpose. Didn't look great. I mean, didn't look great. But after that, they kind of warned him a couple times and said, you can't do that. The ref was on him a lot, kept saying fingers in, fingers in, fingers in. But they go into an exchange, and the knockout punch comes inside that clinch. Goes in, they clinch, he throws an overhand right, caught him, dropped him, finishes the fight there. Exciting and very quick, and did add some questions to it. But also that punch that DC landed, you definitely saw him try 1 or 2 other times earlier in that fight, already in that first round. And it was something that DC said that he actually thought that it was something that they saw a hole in, that they thought this was something we can expose. This is a shot that coming off the clinch, maybe he's a little lackadaisical, wherever it may be. But anyway, you look at it, he goes in there, first round, gets the knockout, becomes a double champ, and that was after that. He goes and he fights fights Stipe for a second time. Now, in this fight, the second time, again, there was the talk of Brock Lesnar. There was all these other talk, and is that something that, did he want to fight him? Did he not want to fight him? A lot of that really was kind of going into it. But in the fight here, you really take a look at it, and I think that the first part that you can take a look in the style of the way that this second fight went was the way how DC really worked his offense. I think the first fight, he kind of backed up a little bit and maybe kind of was getting a feeling out process where Stipe wanted to go in and not allow that. And he wanted to just go in there, cut the distance, look for the big shot. in this situation here, I thought DC added a lot of different things into the fight, and I think it's something that he got away from once the fight started going and he found some success. And in this first round, right within the first minute, he threw about 3 hard leg kicks inside and outside of the front leg of Stipe. And not only that, but then he faked a takedown and came up and threw a hook. So he's given Stipe a lot of different looks early in this fight. I mean, right away, it wasn't, hey, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna brawl with you. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna actually go in there and I'm gonna look for the big shots, but I'm also gonna possibly level change. And from there and from the fakes, you did see the hand speed. I mean, you really saw the hand speed of DC. And again, I'm gonna say that a lot because I think it's very underestimated. He does have the power and, there is the wrestling, but I think that his hand speed for a guy that may have the dad bod or whatever it may be, he has great hand speed. And he went into later into that first round and got the big takedown. And he picked up Stipe, had him hanging off of the back of his body, slammed him down, basically kept him there for the entire round. It was a big first round for DC, and you saw what he did there. He level changed, he faked level changing, he leg kicked, he threw combinations, he had the takedowns. He really utilized all of his weapons, which is something, again, you can take into this third fight, but something that he got away from in the second fight. And going to the second round, I thought it was DC again. He looked great. He goes out there, throws big combinations, moving forward again, and even in those spots, he never attempted a takedown in that second round. And I thought that was very telling. I think the one part of it is that DC was finding a lot of success striking, and I think he almost fell in love with the striking. I think he was almost at the point where I'm going to knock this guy out again. And how easy he made it look in that first fight is the way I think that he wanted to put a stamp on this second fight. And I think that is a part that really hurt him in this fight. But after 2 rounds, and just shows why possibly DC fell in love with striking, that after 2 rounds, DC was at an 80% striking ratio for significant strikes. So he was landing at a high rate, he was throwing at a high rate, he had a good volume, and I think even in that first and second round, Stipe looked like he was in quicksand. I mean, he didn't really do too much. He wasn't circling. He was standing toe-to-toe with them. Didn't look to, kind of get out of the way. And there was a lot of spots in there in that second round, too, where I think DC could have gotten a takedown, could have gotten some more, maybe even tired Stipe out a little bit more. So going into that third round, I think the third one was the best round that you saw from Stipe to this point. Was that then he started, I think the momentum changed, and I think he started really pushing forward, he started landing some big shots, and he started finally walking DC down. I think that was the part that Cormier was able to really dictate the pace in those first 2 rounds, and then Stipe kind of took charge here, landed some big shots, and you did see a little bit, in my opinion, you saw the gas tank a little bit go down on Cormier. I think Cormier was kind of at that point, whether he thought he was going to knock him out already, or whether he exerted too much energy, looking for the big shots, looking for all that. Not really sure, but into the end of that third round was pretty much where you heard it was a minute left, and pretty much it was Stipe's round. Stipe was landing. Cormier looked like maybe he wasn't taking the round off, but he was not landing to any of the rate that he was at that point. But you go into there, and in that first round, into that last minute, is where the corner really said, you gotta go, you gotta strike, we gotta go. And once he pushed forward again is when he once again landed. He once again landed a lot of big shots, started pushing forward, started, had Stipe up against the cage and hurt him. You could tell he was hurt again, really putting a stamp on the end of that round. Although I would give it to Stipe, it was close because he really started causing even more damage, kind of what he was doing into that second round. Going into the fourth round, again, look, they were both kind of tired. It looked like that was a situation where, okay, who's going to really go deep into these championship rounds? And then in this spot, I thought that the adjustment, which is everybody going to say, of course, the adjustment that Stipe made in that fourth round pretty much was incredible. And from what the cornermen say, they basically say at this point that it was his decision. Stipe made it on the run, made it on the fly. The coaches weren't saying, hey, go to the body, body's open. It was just in it. And in a frame of about a minute, once he, because Stipe was actually, not winning that round up until the first body shot. I thought that DC was looking good. He was landing. He was kind of doing a lot of the same things, not looking for the takedowns, which is very in question. But again, landing the big shots, pushing forward. Stipe didn't look good. Once he hit that first body shot, you could tell he was hurt. And even Stipe said in interviews, said, you know what, this is when I knew this is a spot, this is a sweet spot for me. And he had to land in that minute and a half, 9 to 10 body shots. And at a point where DC looked like he was very tired, he didn't have as much of the gas tank. Of course they don't. You know, it's a fourth round of a championship fight in a heavyweight bout. But once he started finding that, he just chipped away. He mixed it up really well. It was something that DC pretty much didn't really feel that he had a way to kind of get out of it. I think maybe it was just the gas tank was low and he just was having problems picking up those shots. Maybe a lot of opponents don't utilize the body shots against him as much. But after that, he put the stamp on it, ended up landing a couple hooks, put him up against the cage, finishes the fight, and there you have it, that Stipe ended up getting that victory. So with that all being said and diving into those first two fights, you know, obviously, you know, the DC is a top-level grappler, top-level wrestler. He's got power. He's, you know, extremely strong. He's durable. He definitely has quick hands, and those are things that you're definitely seeing more and more. On the other side, you've got Stipe. He's also got, you know, a predominantly boxing style, has power. Another guy. Both of these are, you know, top 2 heavyweights of all time. They're up there at least. And I think that, you know, in those situations, the adjustment was huge. Obviously, the adjustment was huge. But I think a big part of it was the lack of maybe respect or just game planning, because obviously Cormier is widely intelligent when it comes to MMA. Obviously you hear him when he's talking, the camp that he comes from. I mean, these are top-level people. But I think he just fell in love with striking. And I think that the first fight was such a curse in a way that he went out there and just obliterated him in the first round, and that was it. He kind of wanted to do that again. And you saw that in that first round is exactly what I believe will be happening into this third fight. That strategy in that first round where Stipe was pretty much lost. I mean, Stipe was kind of, you know, obviously standing and trading, but that first part where you never really saw even DC throw kicks after that first and second round, it was pretty much lacking kicks. He really just looked for the knockout. He wanted to outbox Stipe. That's something that I think is really, really hurt a lot of, you know, there's been other fighters. You even had Ronda Rousey who wanted to, you know, outbox, Holly Holm and out kickbox Holly Holm, and Holly Holm lands a big shot. It's these kind of things where you want to really put a stamp on it, outbeat somebody that's in one particular spot. And in this situation, you've got a wrestler who is one of the best in the world, and I think he's going to go out there and do that. I think that he's going to realize that this is a legacy fight. They're talking retirement after this fight for him. There is no way that he's going to, get away from a game plan. I think he's going to implement that exact thing in that first round, that first minute. I think is a lot of what you're going to see. Faking level changing, feinting, leg kicks, combinations up top, you know, smothering Stipe, looking for the takedowns. Obviously, he's got the power to take him down. He picked him up and put him over his back and slammed him. I think that's where this is going. At this point here, you look at the line, you've got a -116, you've got a -105. I think it's a pick-em price. I love the price on Cormier here, and this is something I've even tweeted out a while ago, that I like the price. I think this is a great price for him. Stipe is a great fighter. I just think that the boxing style, the predominant boxing style for Stipe, is just not enough to beat Cormier when he's focused and when he's actually looking to utilize all the tools that he has in his arsenal. So in this spot here, I will be betting Daniel Cormier to defeat Stipe-Miocic. The other free play we're going to talk about is Magomed Ankalaev versus Iwan Cutelaba. You've got Magomed is a -320, and you've got Cutelaba is +260. I'm not going to dive into this too much here. Kind of just going to give the play and give a little bit of analysis on why I'm going to be picking this. But they did fight one time already. I want to go into that a little bit as well too, and talk about the odd stoppage and kind of what I believe could be happening in this fight. But you've got the first thing here. You've got Magomed. He's definitely a great striker. I mean, you've got a guy here, great technical striker, definitely utilizes the cage very well, very technical in his striking, good hand speed, and you know you've seen him even up against Gleason. He fought. He was a BJJ guy, and even in that particular fight, you know, I thought that he landed some pretty good shots for a BJJ guy fighting a guy that's predominantly more of a striker, and I thought that he looked pretty good in certain spots. He dominated the fight, but I thought there were certain spots where he looked kind of hittable. He looked a little bit hittable, and I thought there were certain situations there where possibly he could be exposed. although this is a fight where Cutelaba is really going to look to stand, so it's going to be looking to be more of a standing, striking matchup with these two guys. And then your side, you've got Cutelaba. He fought Glover Teixeira, and against Glover, this is another guy who is more of a takedown kind of guy, but, you know, I thought Cutelaba in that first round when they fought pretty much looked great. I mean, I thought that he was going to even finish Glover in a certain spot where it almost looked like the fight was going to be over, which really would have elevated his entire, I guess, you know, worth within the UFC. He was able to put away Glover at that point. But in that situation there, Glover does get the victory. And in the other situation, you did see Magomed get the victory there. But going into the most recent fight for both of these guys, which was against each other. And this was a fight where you take a look, and I thought it was interesting enough where both of these guys, there was a lot of heat between these two. Both these guys don't seem to like each other very much. But in the beginning of it, where they were standing there, where you had Cutelaba kind of walk across the cage, and they almost fought before the fight even started. They actually had contact. They separated them. But in this fight here, there was a situation where the combination, they were exchanging, landing big shots, both of them, early in the fight, and it looked like Cutelaba was hurt. And it looked like he was wobbling. It looked like this was going to be the end of the fight. And, once it was called, Cutelaba standing up on his feet, once it was called, he was furious, not too happy, looked like he was okay. You go back and look at the replay, and even Bisping, who was the announcer at the time, said, none of these landed. You can see none of them landed. And he pretty much, I guess, was playing like he was hurt and kind of swaying like he was hurt, so he could maybe, Magomed would look to kind of expose himself and look for the big shot and really allow himself to be hit on those exchanges. Kind of a weird situation, but in this fight, you had Cutelaba was a plus 180. You had on the other side, Magomed was minus 220. Now we're going forward, and you've got now Cutelaba is a plus 260. I think that's kind of interesting that the line has really shifted this wide in a very short time. And I like Cutelaba here, and this is a very big just value play for me here, because I can't see giving Magomed such a big spread in this fight. If anything, I think this fight should be closer, or if anything, you kind of keep it at what it was at. I think that line is a little bit more true line than where it is right now. I think you're giving such a big wide range. You're giving a big price on Cutelaba. These are going to be guys I believe are going to go out there and they're going to exchange early. And that falls into what Cutelaba likes to do. He likes to exchange. He's looking for the big shot. These guys, I don't think are going to be, standing outside, throwing jabs, looking for takedowns. I think this is going to be a big striking match. I think more technical striker definitely is Magomed, but Cutelaba at this price, I think is a great price. I think you got to go with it. I think you have to take it. So for me, I'm going to quickly give you the other free play. I'm going Iwan Cutelaba at plus 260. This is a play for me here that I'm not hammering. I'm not smashing this play. This is going to be a play for me that, again, when I talk about my free plays, when I talk about my client plays are going to be per event for me, about 80% of my bankroll per event. And then the other 20% is going to be free plays, value plays, parlays. But again, the client plays are where we're looking to spend most of our money on a particular night. So in this particular situation here, I got to take Cutelaba here. I'm going to be putting him in parlays. I think that he's going to be a good spot. Again, the price is good. Better fighter may be Magomed, but I think that it's going to be a closer fight than this line indicates. So I'm going Cutelaba to get the victory. So those are my two free plays for UFC 252. And if you want to take a look, definitely check out WagerTalk. Have 4 plays up, $19, including a 4% play. And coming off a 4-0 night, having a big year, and we got to keep it going. So definitely subscribe, like, comment, all those good things. And I will see you on the next show. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.